data, not names of patients or even services provided or anything like that.
I think to pull, you're getting into an area where I don't work on the clinical side, and I think that is not available for a variety of reasons, but the number one being patient privacy. But I think you went to Bootmacher. Have you been to Bootmacher? Mm-hmm. You could probably find some data that would be helpful to you on Bootmacher.
Okay. But Bootmacher probably doesn't report the number of reports made. And so Planned Parenthood actually doesn't have a central listing of how many abuse.
Do you know how child abuse reporting works?
I know the laws that generally I've seen the laws that the statutes that say the sort of reports that are supposed to be made, the people who are required to make those reports, and it would seem, and from what I understand, it would seem like don't most organizations keep track of when they do that, or it just seems like basic record keeping, right?
I don't know if this is irrelevant, but Serena, this is David. David's the head of the live action.
Ah, now I get it.
CMC.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this more, but you're just engaging in this back and forth stuff that's I know the whole live action.
It's very interesting. I would love to talk to you.
It's totally interesting, but it's really not doing
here.
anything to further women's health. It's just stoking your cause. I'm not interested in doing that. I'm sorry.
No. So you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about.
I want to talk about women's health. I want to talk about real things we can do to reduce unplanned pregnancy. I want to talk about real things we can do to prevent STDs. And I would love to know what live action is doing to help people get affordable birth control or real sex ed in schools. You want to talk about that?
What about real cases where girls have been sexually abused and secret abortions have been used to cover up those abuse cases? There are 2 lawsuits against Planned Parenthood of Southwestern Ohio right now from women who.
Work in Ohio, so I don't know.
I know, but I'm just saying we see this all over the place. It's almost like it's a pattern, almost like an institutional sort of tolerance for adult-child sexual relationships.
Yes. I was wondering. I'm sorry, this might be a little off topic.
That's fine with me.
I was wondering, when Planned Parenthood got started, it seemed like it was that in terms of American policy, or American public, it was a really, really positive thing that there was this, availability for women, and it seems like there's been a shift, now with so much stuff against abortion and stuff has given Planned Parenthood a bad name in sort of the broader arena, but it seemed like originally that it wasn't that way. In the sense that it had there was more support for it more publicly. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about I guess we can see why that transition would happen given the extreme right and stuff like that, but some reflections on how do you think that transition has affected women's ability to get help, or how do you think that the image of Planned Parenthood, do you think it's negatively affected, or I don't know. I was just wondering if you could talk about that, because it seems like such a big shift between something that's so positive, just like services that are being offered, to something that's not looked at as positively or something.
Right. Well, the good thing is that a lot of times we assume more negativity than there really is, and the fact is that Planned Parenthood's name in a state like California, we have our favorability, our public approval rating is upper and the same as nurses and firefighters. And so a lot of times we internalize this kind of discomfort that, people aren't going to like us, or people are going to oppose what we do, people are going to ambush us at Fox Nights. But the fact is that overwhelmingly the public is overwhelmingly pro-choice. They're overwhelmingly pro-family planning, and they're actually overwhelmingly pro-Planned Parenthood. And the fact is that you see that across all demographics. There's been some studies done by the Public Policy Institute of California, PPIC, and they've done a lot of research into California public opinion about sex ed, birth control, and the results are really amazing because you can look at all demographic groups, including evangelical Christian, and find that 70% of parents want their teens to be learning about not just abstinence, but also condoms and contraception in high schools. So I think a lot of times we kind of get nervous, or we let the stuff we see on Fox News we assume that represents all of America, and it really doesn't. I've been at Planned Parenthood's, here in California, in New York, in Illinois, and overwhelmingly what people need is affordable health care, and you'll find that that's what people really identify us with, and so sometimes we let the abortion lens cloud our own perception of ourselves.
You were talking about how there's a stigma where women aren't talking about abortion because it's just frowned upon thing, and I was wondering if you think that stigma is getting any smaller, and what Planned Parenthood
can do, but I think that the most important thing we can do is help women to know that, they do have a lot of options. And that, the most important thing is being empowered to make the decision that's best for you. And so, we can do that by, making sure that in our clinics we have a full range of information about adoption options and services for single moms. But it's also about the work that we do when we're not, being an advocate, when we're not being a lobbyist or a Planned Parenthood staff member, but just being a human being and being a family member and a friend and supporting our friends when they're facing, pregnancy scares or unplanned pregnancies. I think that we have to do. Are you videotaping me?
Mm-hmm.
Is that permitted? I didn't consent to be videotaped.
This is a public forum, but if you want us to leave, we can leave. I mean, you can't keep us here.
I did not consent to be videotaped. And in California, it is against the law to record someone without their consent.
That's in a private conversation. This isn't really private.
This is a Vox Club.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Vox Club meeting. I did not consent to be videotaped.
Yeah, it's not. It's a public meeting, right?
I was under the impression I was coming to speak to Vox members at Claremont. I was not under the impression that I was here to be videotaped so that you could use whatever you wanted for whatever political purpose you might have.
Well, I'm sorry if you feel caught unaware or anything like that. If you want us to leave, we can leave. I mean, we don't have.
I would like for you to really delete the footage because I did not consent to be videotaped. You did not announce that you were videotaping. As far as I'm concerned, you've been doing it in secret because, as I can see, you're kind of concealing the videotape, the video camera behind your leg.
No, I'm holding the video camera.
I'm not happy at all with the fact that I feel like I've been ambushed and put in a position where you're trying to, turn this for your own agenda.
Well, that's understandable, and I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah,
but this
and
is
you
a
know
public
what?
forum.
None of these people whose backs are to you can see that. So,
And actually,
it's
that's
not
They
even
could-
okay.
I have to be honest. I work in a situation where we sometimes do videotaping in public forums, and by law, you have to get either consent or have a public notice saying that you are being videotaped at this function. There is no notice anywhere in this room saying that there's videotape going on, and I did not sign any consent to have my image or voice used.
Well, I would invite you to read the statutes in California.
I'm well aware of the statutes. I'm well aware that at all of our events, we let people know if they're being videotaped either by a large public sign at the entrance or by asking their consent on a form. Neither was done in this case.
Right, because this is a public forum. It's the same thing if I were to be out, walking around campus with a video camera. There's nothing illegal about that.
I wanted to leave it.
But if you would like us to leave, we can leave right now.
I think she's talking about a different thing than you leaving, and there's a difference between you leaving and like not filming something.
Well, I'm sorry, but I mean, the law is on our side here, and we're not, And if you want us to leave, we'll leave. But
I want the tape
Yeah,
deleted.
have
I did not consent to have my image or my voice used, and I would really appreciate if you stopped filming now that I've told you that I don't.
you could turn the camera off. But we don't need
I've
to.
told
Right?
you several times now, and you continue